Joe Biden's White House doctor just pleaded the fifth multiple times, but if he's not guilty of being involved in a cover-up, then why plead the fifth to the most basic questions? Meet Dr. Kevin O'Connor, who performed 3 separate annual exams on Joe Biden and assured all of us that Joe Biden was in perfectly good health, he was cognitively there, just all the things. Well, he was called into the House Oversight Committee this afternoon, and apparently he refused. He declined to cooperate in the probe of President Joe Biden's mental fitness. Now, here's what's interesting about this. Before, in the past, he used to be really open with the press. In fact, one time he was walking on the White House lawn and was approached by a New York Post reporter, and oh boy, he was a chatty Cathy. Take a look.
Are you Dr. O'Connor?
I don't know.
How's the president's health?
It's excellent.
It is? Are you going to come to the briefing room to address us? Probably not. Could that change before the end of his term? And how is his mental cognition?
It's excellent.
It's excellent. Is there a reason you didn't perform a cognitive test on him?
You don't need to. He's here every day.
He's good every day? What about the speculation about Parkinson's disease or a related condition? Dr. O'Connor, is there anything to that speculation that there might be something related to Parkinson's that he has?
No, he's good.
Okay. And the specialist's visit to the White House, does that have anything to do with that concern?
No, he's seen him 3 times. My letter was clear.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, whenever you find footage of him walking around and being approached by the press, he's very friendly. He answers their questions, and if he doesn't answer and they ask a follow-up, then he'll engage with them, right? But take a look at what happened this morning when he headed into a closed-door deposition with the House Oversight Committee.
Dr. O'Connor,
What are you prepared to say?
was President Biden mentally fit to serve as president?
Dr. O'Connor, what's your message to the committee?
You think he was up to serve? Thank you. Have you told the truth the entire time that he was, in fact, up to serve?
Just a very different vibe there, not engaging at all, and obviously he's surrounded by his team of lawyers. Well, that was a preview of what was to come because, according to Axios, he pleaded the fifth every time he was asked a question. And the New York Post confirms that the first 2 questions he was asked were you ever told to lie about the president's health? And did you ever believe President Biden was unfit to execute his duties? Now, what's interesting about this is that it was widely anticipated that Dr. O'Connor would invoke doctor-patient privilege to avoid answering any of these questions. Basically, people thought he was going to blame confidentiality and blame HIPAA and use those as excuses to not talk about it. But those first 2 questions had nothing to do with Joe Biden's medical records. It had nothing to do with any confidential information. So he couldn't invoke doctor-patient privilege, and that's why he went straight to pleading the fifth. And to me, that illustrates just how well prepared the House Oversight Committee was, because had they been less prepared, had they been less experienced, they might have asked another question that would have given Dr. O'Connor the opportunity to, yes, indeed invoke doctor-patient privilege instead of using the fifth. For example, it's well known that a Parkinson's specialist was seen at the White House, right? So they might have asked, hey, Dr. O'Connor, you said you conducted, quote, an extremely detailed neurologic exam that was, quote, again, reassuring. You told us everything was fine. Well, if that's true, then why was there a Parkinson's specialist at the White House 10 or 11 times? If they had opened with that question, had they used that question, then Dr. O'Connor could have used, no, I can't answer that, it's doctor-patient privilege. But instead, they asked him questions that had nothing to do with any confidential information, and so they trapped him into pleading the fifth. Now, I want to be very clear, pleading the fifth does not automatically mean you're guilty, and that's not what I'm implying here, but it gets a lot more interesting than that. But first, I do want to point out that he, again, was a little standoffish after this meeting.
Dr. O'Connor, how is that? Excuse me. Yes, sir.
Will you make any comments to press, sir?
Do you have a message for the committee?
Now, pleading the fifth, it does protect you from incriminating yourself, but it does also open a can of worms. Mike Roffey, who is a personal injury attorney practicing in Atlanta, Georgia, has an excellent breakdown of the pitfalls that pleading the fifth can create.
You can't just run around pleading the fifth. On the advice of counsel, I'm exercising my Fifth Amendment right to remain silent and not incriminate myself. You have to have a reasonable belief that you can be prosecuted for something. So when you plead the fifth in a criminal case, the jury or the judge is not allowed to hold that against you because you have that constitutional right not to answer questions if an answer might incriminate you and you believe that you can be prosecuted for that. So if you have immunity, you can't plead the fifth because there's not a reasonable belief that you can be prosecuted. So what happens in a civil case? That is held against you. So if you go to court and plead the fifth in a civil case, the jury is told to presume that the answer would be harmful for you. They're told to hold it against you. When you were driving down the road, were you drinking? On the advice of counsel, I'm exercising my Fifth Amendment right to remain silent and not incriminate myself. The jury is then told, assume that answer would have been hurtful to the witness. Basically, assume the worst. And now the jury knows, yes, you were drinking.
Whew, yeah, that is definitely not good news for Dr. O'Connor. Now, to be very clear, this was neither a criminal nor a civil case. This was just a closed-door deposition with the House Oversight Committee, so those rules don't apply. But still, there's a lot to consider here, because even though he pleaded the fifth, this could attract more scrutiny, more attention due to public pressure, right? Because it has that implication of what are you trying to hide, right? It could draw more attention to the DOJ, which is running a concurrent investigation on the same topic, more scrutiny from the House. So it's not as if this thing won't backfire. Now, again, to be very clear, pleading the fifth doesn't automatically mean you're guilty, and there are many reasons why you might want to plead the fifth. Because you don't actually have to be guilty to incriminate yourself. For example, let's say you're innocent of insider trading, but you had access to internal confidential documents at a firm. A prosecutor might ask, did you have access to these documents, to these financial statements before they were made public? If you answer yes, even if it's the truth, even if it's honest and you're innocent, that could still be misconstrued, and that can be used against you to imply intent. And the prosecution can use your words to build a case against you, even though you're innocent. But again, if we take a look at those opening first two questions, were you ever told to lie about the president's health? That is a simple yes or no answer. And I just don't see how answering that honestly would get you in trouble unless you did something illegal, unless you broke the law, unless you misrepresented Joe Biden's health to the general public. And of course, the second question, did you ever believe President Biden was unfit to execute his duties? It's just interesting. He went straight to the fifth, provided no transparency, no answers. Really makes you wonder, is there something to hide there? And I think, of course, we all know that there was a lot to hide there. In fact, Lindsey Lee, who is now a former Democrat and was once one of the top people in the DNC, and in fact was one of the Democrat Party's most prolific fundraisers, she name-dropped Dr. O'Connor a few weeks ago.
Because I want to talk about that doctor. You know who that doctor was? Kevin O'Connor. This is a family business associate. He had a financial interest in propping up the Biden regime, and that is a fundamental problem here. People lied about his cognitive decline because they wanted power. Let's be perfectly honest about that. Exactly. Jill Biden, and I will name the names. Jill Biden, Steve Ricchetti, Mike Donnellan, Anita Dunn, Anthony Bernal. These were the Jeff Zients. These were the people running our country. We had a council of presidents for the past few years. We didn't have an elected president. We had these unelected hacks who understood that Biden was our final gravy train, that as soon as he went off into the sunset, they were done. So they wanted to drag us on for forever.
Now, I know there are going to be a lot of people out there saying, Daniel, this is in the past. It's water under the bridge. Just forget about it. We want to focus on the future. We want to focus on rebuilding the military, restoring the economy, and we want to stay focused on the future. And while I get that, it's also important to make sure that corruption is held accountable, exposed, to make sure that this sort of thing, this sort of issue never happens again, because quite frankly, he did endanger national security. We're lucky that nothing more serious happened during his term. But on top of that, it's also about the auto pen, right? Because this raises into question, if Joe Biden wasn't cognizant, if Joe Biden was not mentally aware of what he was signing, we do know he used the auto pen. So this would actually null and void a lot of the executive orders and the actions that were taken under Joe Biden's regime. So it is important that we get to the bottom of this, because it's more than just accountability. It's also about the Constitution. There is a right and a wrong way to run the country. And if people aren't held accountable, then this will happen again, and that's what we want to prevent. Now, James Comer, who is the chairman of the House Oversight Committee, gave more insight into what actually happened.
Chairman, can you tell us what happened in the deposition?
I can tell you exactly what happened. Dr. O'Connor pleaded the Fifth Amendment, and I'm gonna read the first two questions that were asked. Were you ever told to lie about the president's health? He pleaded the Fifth Amendment. He would not answer that question. The second question, did you ever believe President Biden was unfit to execute his duties? Again, President Biden's White House position pleaded the Fifth Amendment. This is unprecedented, and I think that this adds more fuel to the fire, that there was a cover-up. I believe that this adds legitimacy to the Tapper book and the other books that are in the works that are about to come out that shows there was a lot of suspicious activity taking place in the White House with respect to the president's health. And this was an opportunity for Dr. O'Connor to defend his reputation, to defend his work, and he chose to take the Fifth. And I think that that's something that every American is going to be concerned about.
Is some of that because of the doctor-patient confidentiality? I mean, there are questions about, HIPAA and Hippocratic Oath. And all that.
The first two questions pertained, again, were you ever told to lie about the president's health?
I think the key word there, too, that I didn't mention earlier, I was trying to emphasize it while I was saying it, but it wasn't did you lie about his health, but were you told to lie about his health? And I think that's a brilliant first question, because it would certainly implicate others if the answer had been yes.
There is serious concern, and the evidence mounts by the minute, that Joe Biden had no idea what his name was being signed to. And we're talking about executive orders, and we are talking about pardons. So, what Dr. O'Connor did today only added fuel to the fire, that there was a cover-up, and that Joe Biden wasn't mentally fit to serve as President of the United States. We're going to keep bringing people in. Hopefully the next witnesses will answer the questions just like the first witness did, Nira. So hopefully we can get some answers. Thank you all.
As happy as I am that the House Oversight Committee is taking action, taking initiative, and trying to find out answers, I just have that sinking feeling in my gut that, like many other investigations, we're not actually going to get to the bottom of anything. But as always, all of that is just my analysis and commentary. That's what's going on in the world of politics from my point of view, and I would love to hear from you. So pleading the Fifth, like I said earlier, it doesn't guarantee, it does not mean that you're guilty. However, I do like providing people the benefit of the doubt, so I'm just wondering, can anyone brainstorm? Can anyone think of any plausible reason why he would have wanted to plead the Fifth? I'm just wondering what the what he could possibly be afraid to incriminate himself of if he is innocent, which again, that's not personally what I believe. I think on the surface it speaks for itself, and sometimes the simplest explanation is more often than not the correct one. But I'm just wondering, is there a legitimate explanation? Let me know down in the comments below. If you haven't already, please be sure to leave me a thumbs up. I know it's a simple thing to ask for, but it really does help me reach more viewers like you in the algorithm. Be sure to smash that subscribe button and to check out one of these videos.